Hi, welcome back to the channel. Well, this is a bit of a different video today. It's something I haven't really spoke about in previous videos, but I think it's something that is worth kind of looking into. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I feel that the job market is kind of cutthroat in some ways. And I think a lot of young people are kind of feeling that they are set up to fail. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, if you're new to the channel, if this is your first video, I am trying to break out into modelling. And if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that already. And if you're also familiar with the channel, you'll know that in my last video, I spoke about how my appointment with the agency was put back from the 22nd of May to the 16th of June. So that in itself is kind of an example of what I'm talking about. And I suppose one of the reasons I'm doing this video today is I feel that myself and some people I know, that we're kind of becoming a bit disillusioned with the whole job hunting experience, the whole job hunting feeling of kind of just not, you don't feel like it's being reciprocated. There are currently in the UK 400,000 young people unemployed. These are people who are actively and available for work, but are not really getting anywhere. And that's the situation we're in now. And this contributes to overall about 15.8% of the youth unemployment percentage. Now I could sit here and just throw out statistics. Anybody can look up statistics. You know, you're more than capable of doing that yourself. But I think it's impossible to ignore that this is the situation where a lot of young people are finding themselves in. Even young people like myself, who have kind of got a plan and are trying to work towards a plan. But you can feel at times like it is obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And all the time this is happening, young people are having to put up with this ridiculous generalisation that all young people are lazy, all young people are entitled, all young people are unmotivated. We feel we're too good to work basic jobs, and so on and so forth. And talking to somebody who has worked basic jobs, they are very productive, but they are not easy to come by. I've been very lucky that I've been able to work normal jobs and actually gain some work experience, you know, in my younger years. There are many people my age who I've met who have never had that opportunity and are trying really hard but are not getting anywhere, and not for any fault of their own. This is where it gets interesting. It isn't for much fault of their own, but it feels like some people don't acknowledge that. It's easier just to blame it on young people being unmotivated, undisciplined, whatever they come out with. But that's it seems easier to do that. My question is this, and have a little think about this. You might be in the position I am. You might be lucky. You might have work, and if you have, well done. Because it isn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. If you are in active work, you are something else. Because there's many of us who are in a situation where we're trying, but it just doesn't seem. It seems like the more you try, the more it doesn't work, kind of thing. If that makes any sense. What I'm going to say, and I want you to just have a quick think about, is do you think you can expect young people to continually be motivated, to continually be enthusiastic, ready to put themselves out there, and yet it not be reciprocated? Can you really expect young people to continually have drive when they feel that, oh, it's not going to really work, but I've got to do it regardless? It sometimes feels that there's a bit of a disconnect between myself, people my age, and people who are possibly a bit older. It feels like they have their own set of values, their own blueprint, if you like. That this is how things worked when they were 26, and this is how people who are 26 now should follow that rule. And I'm like, but it's a different world to when you were 26. It's not the same world. Things are drastically different. You know, it's not 1976 or 1986. Things are incredibly different. I'm not saying things are worse. I'm not saying things are better. It's just different. I'm not saying every person over the age of 60 had it better when they were 26, but it was different. There would have been a few things that were probably better, but there will be things that are worse. But there is this disconnect that I have been experiencing with people of a certain age, people like into their 50s and 60s. And they seem to have this idea that they had it really hard and that everybody my age doesn't really know their bum. And they generally have this misconception. Have you spoke to anyone over a certain age? How do they feel? Do they think this? Is it just me? Are we all just lazy? Everyone under the age of 30? Are we all just lazy? Or 35 actually. I think the statistic now for young people under the age of 35. So if you're under the age of 35, you're still considered young. I don't know. It's tough. It is, and this isn't a. I don't want to make it a woe is me episode. I don't want to make it into poor me. My life. I don't really like these doom and gloomer YouTube videos, but I do think it is impossible to ignore that we are living in a situation where most people of a certain age think that it's easier than it actually is. I don't normally get worked up about these things. I'm not necessarily stressed about it, but it is something that I feel has to be spoken about. Particularly because, as you know, as I've said, this channel is about trying to get into modelling, and the whole point of the channel is to document that process. So there I am, I've got this modelling appointment, things are going, and then I have to come out and do a video, in my last video, telling everybody, it's been put back another 3-4 weeks. And it's now coming up to the week where it should happen. It should be a week from tomorrow. So of course you have that impending dread that, it's going to be put back for a third time. Because the last 2 times it's been put back, it's been a few days before the appointment was actually meant to take place. So now you start thinking, this is when it's going to get put back again. Again, that's if you're being negative about it. And I think that's the whole point. It's hard to keep optimism, and it's hard to keep enthusiasm the more these things kind of fall through. It's easy in the beginning to stay optimistic and stay quite enthusiastic, but it feels the more you try and it's kind of, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out, it's harder and harder and harder to keep optimistic and to keep like, this is going to work, It just seems, do you know what I'm saying? I hope I'm going somewhere with this video. I hope it's going somewhere. Because I know what I'm on I'm sure there's got to be some people my age who are in the same situation. Unless I'm just going absolutely mad. But that's kind of where it feels like. And I've been thinking about it more because, again, this is the week where it's meant to happen. Well, a week from tomorrow. And I'm just like, how many times can you put yourself out there for it to be kind of, the door to be kind of shut in your face? Again, if you're being overly, if you're susceptible to depression or anxiety, which again, there's people I know who are trying and have these things. They have these obstacles, but they're still putting themselves out there, and it's not really being met. They're not really getting anywhere, and it isn't for any fault of their own. And it's something that I have to acknowledge. You can't really ignore it unless you pretend it isn't happening. You just pretend that, everything's going to be okay. But I hope it is. But there are things that happen where you just think... As I said in my last video, if you are watching this and you are interested in going into modelling, you have to be prepared for knockbacks. And you will have days, I guarantee you, where you do think, why am I doing this? I had one of the... yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone about it. And they, it seemed to me, could not grasp what I was actually saying. They were just, you're just being negative. You're just being, you got to be more positive about it. And I was like, yeah, but I was initially. But we're now looking at the third time and there's a chance it could be put back. And you still expect me to be like all positive? And they was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, I'll be positive about something when you know there's a chance it isn't going to happen. It is good to be positive. It is good to keep yourself in high spirits, but you can't ignore the reality of the situation. Because then you're just putting blinkers on. And just pretending that, everything's going to be okay anyway. You can hope that. But you have to accept that the curveballs that come at you, you can't ignore them. You can't pretend it doesn't happen. But fingers crossed. But this is just one flimsy example of so many people in my position who are going through this, who are having to put themselves out there and it not be met. Some bright spark after the COVID-19 pandemic made it almost mandatory for every job application now to have to be done online. So long gone are the days where you could just walk into a shop or walk into, a pub or a restaurant that would have a sign outside saying, "We are hiring, please come in." And you would go in and you would probably have an interview that day, and you'd probably find out that day as well if you had the job or not, or if you was going to have a trial run. Them days are gone. You will now have to apply for everything online. And that in itself can sometimes feel like a ball ache. Because the competition there is so immense. At one time, just one job can be receiving 500 applications. That's at least 500 applications. It could be way more. Just at one time. There'll probably be 5 of those applications that actually get accepted. 2 of them will probably be seen. 1 of them will be a rejection. The other one will be an acceptance. So, how that can't weigh on you at some point, realising that the competition you're up against is just absolutely horrendous. And one of the reasons I went into modelling, believe it or not, was it was easier to get a response from a modelling agency than it was a normal job application, sending out to a normal employer. for, I don't know, retail work or you know, in those fields, it was easier to send out to a modelling agency and actually get some form of response than actually a regular job. With every modelling agency I've sent out to, I've got a response, which is a good thing. That is a positive compared to when I've sent out in the past to just regular jobs. You might not get a response. If you do, I've had it where I've had to wait up to like 6 or 7 months just to get a rejection. That's again an example of the kind of climate we're in. The competition is just, it can feel at times too much, but there's nothing you can really do about it. Because when you say anything about it, oh, well, you're just complaining, you're just moaning, you're just, you know, you don't know you're born, just get on with it. That's what we're doing. We've got no choice but to just get on with it. But it doesn't mean at times it doesn't annoy you. In fact, I don't know if it is so much that I'm annoyed, it's just, I guess this is in a way sort of a venting video, if you like. It's kind of me coming on and just letting off a bit of steam, I guess. Just about how, I suppose, how you can feel a bit at your depth sometimes. And that, again, that doesn't mean just with modelling, it means the whole job hunting process. You can feel a bit at your depth at some point when you actually think about it. It's just in my case, it happens to be modelling. And I'm luckier than most. I accept that. I've actually got something concrete. I've actually got a plan. Or, well, I'm not saying most people don't have a plan, but I suppose my goal in some ways is easier to get to because I have got an appointment. Just the last 2 times it's been put back. And I hope to God the 3rd time it doesn't get put back. But there's some people who don't even have that stability. They don't even have that safety net. They're literally just sending out on job sites, just trying their luck. Just literally, it's almost like a roulette wheel. They're just throwing the dice and just seeing what happens. And there's only, I think what the whole point of this video is, there's only so long you can do that for before you start becoming disillusioned, before you start losing any, you know, before you lose any faith in the actual system. I've seen a few videos about how Gen Z don't want to work, how Gen Z don't want to do this, how Gen Z don't want to do that. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't think it's that Gen Z don't want to work. You probably have some who in that category who don't want to work. I have no doubt of that. But I think on the whole, most, your average Gen Z does want to work, does want to get on in life. And again, I think it's too easy just to say, oh, most of them don't want to work, most of them don't want to do this, most of them don't want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with having standards. There's nothing wrong with having boundaries, I guess. You know, there's nothing wrong with aiming high. You know, you don't just want to do what your parents did, in a way. Okay, I'm not knocking anybody's parents. My parents were hard workers. But at the same time, when I talk to them about it now, it feels like they can't really see the situation I'm in. They kind of like, they see it from the perspective when they were my age, which was a very different time. That was nearly 40 years ago. It was a very different time, very different place. Again, this is what we do on these videos. If you're new here, I just throw out something and we try and make sense of it, or I'll try and make sense of it by talking to you. That's kind of what it's about. Just trying to make sense of the situation. Okay, it feels out that you know, people say, well, you're not going down the traditional route. You're not just working a 9 to 5. You're going into agencies. But I feel like, yeah, but most people can't even get to the 9 to 5 route, because most of these jobs require experience. And I think if you're fresh out of school, or it's your first job, and you need that job to gain experience, and yet you need to have had another job with experience to get this job, it just feels like a perpetual loop of obstacles. That's kind of, oh, it's just like a lot of these spices. Come on. That's what it feels like, just a perpetual loop of the same thing. And in some ways, I'm luckier than a few other people. And it's hard. I've been sending it to agencies now since November. And there's other videos covering the actual, the agency before this one, how they absolutely just mess me around. There's another video on that. How they just, I'm not getting into it on this video, but it was ridiculous. And that was the kind of the point where I realised, yeah, this isn't going to be just a walk in the park. It's going to actually be quite, it's going to test your mettle, and you're going to actually see what you're made of. Now, with this agency, all I can do is hope for the best, and that's kind of what I'm doing. All I can do is look to the future and hope for the best. And I will know soon enough, because as I say, it's a week from tomorrow, so I will probably know if it is put back again. I will know within this coming week. Fingers crossed, it all works out and things start taking off. But if you are feeling disillusioned, if you are feeling like things are kind of just, you know, if it is getting to you, and if you feel, I guess, that no one really gets it. No, we do. We do get it. It isn't easy. And again, not everybody is going to understand, especially people from older generations. And it's not really their fault. I don't think they're all doing it I don't think, well, not all doing it, of course. But I don't think people of that age are deliberately trying just to be funny or difficult. I think they generally have an unconscious bias of seeing things through the lens of people our age. They can't see how we can because they're from a different time. I don't think it's just being, you know, I don't think they're just trying to be, what's the word? What's the word you come out with? I don't think they're just trying to ignore it for the sake of it. I think they generally have a hard time seeing it from the perspective of someone younger. And that's, in a way, understandable. Ignorant, that was the word. I don't think they're just trying to be ignorant for ignorance sake. I think they generally have difficulty seeing it from our perspective. But again, it doesn't make it feel any less isolating at times. And I understand that. Because it can be. If you don't try and talk to somebody about it, especially somebody your age. And that can help at times, you know, when you have somebody your age who's going through the same kind of thing, it can be easy to kind of talk to them instead of always trying to talk to somebody older. But that's what this video was about anyway. I hope it made sense. Again, I don't like to make dismal videos. I don't like to make videos that are kind of negative. But again, it is something that I felt had to be kind of examined. It had to be kind of put on the table and looked at. That, yeah, the job market is hard now. I'm not saying it hasn't been hard before. I'm not saying it isn't, you know, if there is anybody older watching this. I'm not saying that it wasn't all, you know, you didn't get away with it scot-free when you were 26. But for people my age, the competition is immense, and that is something that you should think about when you're saying, oh well, you just want to sit. I saw something the other day, and it was I can't remember who it was now, but it was an oldish guy, and he was on a talk show, and he said all young people want to do, and this is he's throwing everybody into this category of a certain age. Okay, so bear in mind this is everybody of a certain age in one category. All these people want to do is sit on their phones eating crisps. That was a whole generation of people he summed up. I'm not saying maybe there are a few people my age who are quite happy doing that, and I have met people my age who are quite comfortable just sitting on the phone and eating crisps. If you want to be symbolic about it, but to label or brand a whole generation of people as all they want to do is sit on their phones eating crisps, I think is just a ridiculous generalisation and a complete ignorance of the actual reality or of the facts. That no, it isn't just we all just want to sit eating crisps. Some of us are really trying, and it isn't easy. And I suppose you live in hope. You do all this and you think, well, hopefully one day it all works out. And I suppose maybe that's why a lot of us do it. And that's probably why I'm doing it. When I think about it, it's probably the reason. If I'm going to justify my insanity, it's probably because I believe that one day it will all have worked out. And I hope it does for you, if you're in that situation. I hope if you watch this and you're in that situation, whatever it might be modelling, you might be in exactly the same situation as I am, might have nothing to do with modelling, doesn't really matter. But whatever you're doing, I hope it works out for you. I hope you get something from this video. I hope it makes some sense, or you take away from it that, oh, it isn't just me. There's quite a few of us who are in that situation. My next video will be hopefully when I've had my appointment. Fingers crossed. It will be hopefully when the appointment has happened. If there's anything that comes up in that time, like it being put back again, I'll do a video and let people know. But fingers crossed, it will be half after the appointment. So if you're new here, go and check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Hopefully you'll find one that you like, or you might like this video. I don't know. If you want, think about liking or subscribing. No, I'm joking. It doesn't really matter if you like, subscribe or not. As long as you watch these videos and somebody enjoys them, that's all that matters. And if you want, leave a comment. The comments are open. Again, you're more than welcome to completely disagree with everything I've just said, but hopefully you'll have a valid point. So, thanks to anybody who has subscribed, thanks to anybody who has watched the video, and I will hopefully catch you all after the modelling appointment. So, peace out.